Hi Stampers! Today I'm going to talk about the different types of stamps and images that you can get from Stampin' Up! We do have 4 different types of images that you can get. You can get the what we call wood stamps, which is red rubber mounted on wood. You can get the clear stamps, which are the red rubber, and you buy separate clear blocks to mount them on. We have the photopolymer, which are super clear stamps that you mount on clear blocks, and we also have the digital stamps or stamp brushes that you can use with your computer and My Digital Studio or other programs. So let's just get started, and I will show you some different advantages and disadvantages of each of those types of images. Now, my favorite style of stamps is wood, but to let you know what you're going to get, your wood stamps are going to come in a case like this. It's going to have photos of the images along the sides. If you're like me, you can't read the words, but it gives you a great idea when they're all sitting on the shelf what stamp set you're looking at. Now, this is a brand new set, so when you open it, you're going to have a sheet of stickers, and that's to put on the top of your wood blocks so that you know what you're stamping. You're going to have your wood blocks. I'm just going to take these out here. And then underneath you're going to have, you can see this is your adhesive side with the protective coating on. And here's your red rubber stamps. Now this is a wood set. So all you need to do to mount these is just pop these carefully out. And I like to actually lay out all of my blocks before I start mounting anything. And just match up, you know, usually starting with the biggest down to the littlest, to make sure that you don't end up with a block that's too small for your stamp that you have left. So you're just going to go ahead and get these all out. And line those up, and if anybody can come up with a great use for this, it would help all stampers, but for right now that just goes in the waste bin for me. So then what you're going to do is you're going to just peel off the back of each of these, which is one of my hardest endeavors. And then go ahead, now I like to center mine, but some people like to keep it on one edge or over to a different side. That's the beauty of the unmounted stamps, is that you can put the rubber wherever you want it on the block. And I just like to keep mine, you know, sort of centered. I'm not always perfect at it, but that's my goal. Now, I can tell that this is the bottom, so I'm just going to flip this guy over just like that, and I tend to kind of do that because I get sidetracked and I forget which is up. And then right away I'm going to put this on here, and I'm going to try to center that as well, so that, you know, my label pretty much is where my stamp is. And then I'm just going to go ahead and finish mounting all of these and then store them back in my box. And that's a wood mount set. Now, some of the advantages of the wood mount over other types of stamps that you might see out there, and you know, particularly the Stampin' Up! Ones, the red rubber, in my opinion, is the absolute best stamping medium. It's going to pick up your ink the best. It's going to release the ink. You know, it's kind of the gold standard. Now, when you have your wooden blocks, of course, if you travel to events and do a lot of stamping with friends, they're not light, and they're also rather bulky. You know, this is a really nice case, but it's not what you'd call thin. And if you're like me, you want to bring, you know, about 20 different sets along when you go somewhere, so it can get really heavy. You know, if you're looking for weightlifting, which I probably need, it's a good thing to use wooden stamps. Now, another and of course that's a disadvantage of them. Now another advantage, and one of the things that I really like about them, is that I'm kind of a lazy person basically. So when I get an idea, oh, you know, it strikes, and I want to stamp right now. So I grab my stamp, take it out, ink it up, smack, I'm done. No mounting. That's already been done once. I don't have to ever do it again. So, you know, that's a great image. The rubber lasts forever if you, as long as you don't keep it in the sunlight or the heat, you know, keep it in a like your house and out of the direct sunlight, they're going to last you forever. No mounting every time you go to use them, and just absolutely the best images you can get. Now, of course, the disadvantages, you know, if I want to stamp this boat and I want this image, you know, the word image to be, you know, precisely in a certain spot, well, you're guessing it. You can't see precisely where they are. So that's a disadvantage of them. You can use them with the Stamp-A-Ma-Jig, which I do quite a bit, to line them up. And basically, you know, you can watch my Stamp-A-Ma-Jig tutorial, but you're going to stamp on a clear template and then line it up with your Stamp-A-Ma-Jig and then go ahead and stamp again where you want it. Like I said, watch my video on the Stamp-A-Ma-Jig. It'll show you how to use that. And of course, I said they're heavy. They take up more room. These are the disadvantages of the wooden blocks. And they're also more expensive. You have to pay for this wood, you know, where with the other types of stamps you don't. So that's the wooden stamps. Next, we're going to go on to the clear stamps. Now for the clear stamps, which I think is probably the most confusing language of all, because these stamps are not clear, but the term comes from the thought that you have wooden blocks with the wood stamps, and you use the clear blocks with the clear stamps. So for Stampin' Up's clear stamps, you're going to get basically a real similar thing to your wood ones, except you're not going to have wooden blocks. So again, you're going to get your stickers, and you're going to get your red rubber. Now, I find, and you know, it might be me, I know I have very oily hands, and I think that might be part of it, but you know, the directions are to put the stickers, of course, onto the stamps, and then the idea is that when you stamp, you'll see your sticker and you know exactly where you're placing it. Now, when I do that, I have trouble keeping my stamps on my clear blocks. So I don't do that. It makes it a little bit less friendly as far as being able to see, you know, like the heart is really easy. You know that the point of the heart is down. You know, if I have this on here, I know exactly where the heart is. All of these images on this particular one, that it's no problem if you take them and use them without the backing sticker on them. Now, when you start to get to word stamps, or if you have a lot of square stamps where you can't see exactly, you know, where your image is going to be, those are a little harder. They do have the great red rubber. You know, this is again your best images are going to come from your red rubber. They come in these awesome thin cases with the pictures on the back. Again, you know, easy to see. They're lighter. When you take them along, you can get way more of them in a bag than the wooden block ones. They have advantages, you know, some great advantages. The disadvantages of them, again, I'm not happy with the way they stick on the block. Now there are demonstrators out there who have a whole bunch of options for you on how to make them stickier. You can, the Tombow adhesive, you just put it on the back of your sticker and then set it aside and let it dry overnight. And then it's going to be not a permanent bond. It'll be a removable bond. And that really does help. Another disadvantage that I see with these is that you do have to have more than one block if you are working on a project where you have multiple stamps that you're using. So these can get kind of expensive too. It's not like they're super cheap, you know, versus buying the wood blocks. You need to mount them every time, which, you know, for a lazy person like me, that's one of those things. When you talk about them versus the photopolymer stamp sets, they still aren't clear. I have this mounted and I want to put it inside of, you know, this image. It's not clear when I look at it. I can't see exactly where the edge of the image is, where the letters are going to be. So the photopolymer has it way beat as far as clear. You still need to use your Stamp-A-Majig. One other idea if you're using these is to, and this is what I do with mine, I actually put the images that would normally go on the back of the stamps, I put them on my case, and this just helps me to, you know, I can look at this really quickly and say, huh, where did I leave that one? So you know which ones go in the set. So that is the clear stamps. So then we have our photopolymer. Oops, that's another clear one. Here we go. Now, these are both photopolymer stamp sets, and you might ask, well, what the heck, why is one in a woodblock case? Well, it's in the deeper case because it's a huge set. There's 3 different pieces in this set. Now, the advantage of these stick just awesomely on the clear blocks. I'm really impressed. You know, sometimes they're almost like hard to get off when they're brand new and you get them. You know, you literally have to like peel it back. I have never had a problem with these sticking. I love these for their see-through ability. You know, if you want to line this up with the other, like a 2-step stamp, you can see exactly where you're placing it. So that's a super advantage. They're also much cheaper. Now, I have heard that when you're talking like a lifetime, that the photopolymer probably isn't going to last forever like the rubber stamps will. But this certainly lasts for my lifetime. They're even, you know, in comparison, the photopolymer is way lighter than the rubber. The clear with no blocks. They take up less storage space, of course, with a normal size set. You know, they all fit in one. When I only have one sheet, I actually glue my sheet with the words on to the back of my case with some fast fuse adhesive, and then I can just peel them off. I don't have the two sheets of plastic to deal with, which makes it, you know, a little quicker to grab and go. The disadvantages of them is that they do stain as you use them, which makes them a little bit harder to see through. I don't think any of these are too bad. If you use a lot of red ink with them, or black, most of these I've used green and brown, but they do get stained, which makes it harder to see through. And of course, there is that they might not be as long lasting. They do ink up very well. Probably not as good as the red rubber, but way better than the cheapy acrylic ones that you'll find out there. They pick up the ink pretty nice. Now, I always stamp, if you can see what I've got here, I have an old calendar. Several layers of paper under it. So I find when I stamp here that I always get a nice crisp image. Now, I have heard of some people having problems with them if you're stamping just on a hard surface, that, you know, maybe you need to put a stamp mat or something underneath, but or just a few layers of paper. And like I said, I've never had a problem with them where I stamp here. They ink up great and release the ink real well. They're They're super good for lining things up. If you look at my cards, you'll see that I'm not always a perfectly straight liner upper, so anything that I can do to help that is just a bonus for me. Now, the fourth type of stamps that you'll see listed in our catalog or like on our weekly deals, you'll see some that say digital download or stamp brush. Now those images are for your computer, so you buy them way cheaper than stamps, way less storage space. If you're a computer user and you like to do computer scrapbooking or make your cards on the computer, definitely the way to go. The advantages, of course, of that, it's cheaper than stamps. You can use it with multiple programs. They're made to use with the My Digital Studio, but you can use it with other card making, scrapbooking programs out there. No smudged images. You know, if you have a hard time stamping and it seems like every time you pick a stamp up you have a smudge on it, you don't smudge them. You just print it on your computer. You don't have to store any boxes of anything. You can change the size. If I want this bicycle to be this big, or if I want it to be this big, I can do that just by, you know, pulling it on my computer. I can print them out. I can use them with my traditional stamps and card making. You know, I can do the card. I can color it with blendabilities. After I've printed it, I can add ribbon. I can distress it. So a great way to go if you have a small or non-existent storage space for your stamps. You like working on a computer. It's a great way to go for a lot of people. For me, the disadvantage is I don't get my stamps in my hand. I love my wooden stamps. It's kind of like I don't know if I'm a hoarder or collector, but I do enjoy my stamps and the actual stamping. I love doing that. So I don't think I would ever give up my stamps, but for a lot of you out there, the digital stamp brush sets, I would really, you know, recommend them. Like I said, it's just a different way to create. So I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial on stamps. And of course, the advantages and disadvantages that I've given you are from my point of view. You might find something totally different. So, you know, I hope you found it useful. Oh, one other little tip. This is my very grubby, well-used eraser. For your red rubber stamps, when you get them, they do have like an oil on them to release them from their molds. And sometimes I usually just stamp them, you know, I ink them up, stamp them off on the side the first time I use them. But if you do have trouble with them, like they seem like they're resisting the ink, like they won't pick up the ink when you first buy them, just go ahead and give a little rub over the whole surface of the stamp with your eraser. And then clean it off like you normally would, not just brush it. And then go ahead and clean it, and it should be ready to go. That should get rid of that film of oil that might be on them. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you've learned something, and happy stamping.